And we're back with War Tactics with our weekly Wednesday Wall Day videos where we talk about the stats, the facts, and all things related to the rise of the Green Tide. So, like always, we like to start with the stats. So, going into how the Orks did on this week's Meta Monday, you can see that a 51% win rate this weekend with a 49% win rate in the last 6 weeks. Now, at the time of this recording, the data slate's been released. So what we're going to do today is take a look at a couple more lists than usual, and we're going to do it through the eye of someone who has now seen the data slate, knowing what the point increases and decreases have been. We're not going to look so deeply into the enemy matchups because most of those enemies archetypes have now changed. Yet we can look at each of these orc lists that we're going to go over today and see how similar we can keep those lists to how they may look, if it's ingredients for a new archetype, or if I think some of these lists might actually fall off the wall since the changes, right? So keep that in mind. One thing that is important, though, is from this week, like always, we like to look at the stats of faction versus faction. Now, according to Goonhammer, Leviathan GT pack, start date 10/01 to end date 1/30/24. We have Orks and what their hardest matchups are. We have Death Guard, followed by Black Templars, Astra Militarum, Eldar, Tyranids, and Leagues of Voltan as our top 6 hardest matchups, with Custodes right there at the end. Now, Custodes doesn't surprise me at all. And so the Custodes is something that we need to pay attention to with the data slate coming, right? Let's just say that this is the beginning of season 3 of 10th edition, right? In the beginning of the season of 10th edition, when it started, Custodes were demolishing Orks and just winning the meta as a whole, but demolishing Orks particularly, as we had a 19% win rate into Custodes. So now that they've actually been buffed, not brought up to where they were, but somewhere kind of along those lines, and all of their natural predators have now been demolished, Orks, we need to be aware of that, right? Leagues of Voltan didn't take too much of a nerf, but Leagues of Voltan is still going to be quite relevant. I think it's mission dependent for the most part, and let's see what their new archetypes look like. They might build into a list that's not favorable against us. So, we'll see how that looks. Tyranids actually got a bunch of increases, and Tyranids have been constantly a bit of a difficult matchup for us. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. So Eldar took a bunch of nerfs. I think Eldar actually, what the nerfs that they took is going to be enough to actually mess up their chances against us in matchups. So we're actually going to start winning that. I think that getting closer to 50, if not surpassing 50 now. Astra Militarum, they didn't take a bunch of point increases. Maybe a Manticore, I believe, did, but overall, they still have a lot of the weapons, and now they can distribute orders from their transports. So if they change their archetypes, possibly, it could be bad for them and to us, but I think that's still going to be a pretty hard matchup. Black Templars is still pretty much the strongest way to play Space Marines, no questions, really. And then Death Guard, even though they did take a bit of a nerf here and there, their Death Shroud Terminators got better, and if we start changing over to using less Squig Hog Boys, using more elite infantry, well, those Death Shroud do great into infantry. They have anti-infantry flamers on their hands. They get to reroll wounds. So, we got to keep that in mind, that Death Guard's not in a weak spot. Even if they did lose the ability to bring so many Brigands, we'll say, that they used to, they'd still like to bring Nurglings, and Nurglings is the issue when compounding their -1 ballistic weapon skill with -1 to hit, because then Orks are now having a horrible time with accuracy. So with that being said, keep these matchups in mind. We know this is what this is going to look like. On Friday, we're going to actually have a more in-depth conversation, go over every single faction in 40K and how it matches up into Orks now, at least our predictions, since the data slate. So that's kind of a little taste of what we're going to get. But with that being said, I'm definitely going to go into the top performing list of this week. We had so many good orc placings. George Crabtree right here from Vanguard Tactics actually got the winning this FactorUM Warhammer GT. So great job to George. Whoa! And so we're talking about him. I believe we're going to cover about 6 lists here. And actually, the list we're going to cover, one of them is going to be one of our personal war bosses from our chat. So that's great. And I'm going to give a couple of you guys a shout out to the Whoa for Wicked Joe. Of course, got to say hello to the wall you get. Welcome to the rise of the Green Tide, y'all. So yeah, of course. And yes, cans are back on the menu, boys. I do have some things I want to say about that. I'm not trying to ever poo-poo on anybody's parade, but I also have personal things where I'm hesitant to use them because of our oncoming matchups. We can talk about on Friday. Be sure to leave these questions. And Custodes are my nemesis. Haven't beat them since 8th edition with my Orks. There you go. I think just off the rip, it might be this is a point of contention, but I think Gaz is going to help in that matchup. We really need that lethal to shoot through them. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about George Crabtree and Kyle, but first we're going to talk about George Crabtree. So what we like to do is look at their list, and then we like to look at their matchups. That way we get a bit of a context here, right? Because let's just say you never hit any of our natural predators. We'd like to know that when we look at what this list had to go through to get its way to the top, right? So we're just going to do a quick one this week because the rivals are going to be changing, but we still get to see what they had to face, right? So in here we got Mega, we'll say Rocks, Captain Badrook, Mozrog, Scragbag, Warboss, Follow Me Lads. I was always on the fence of Follow Me Lads, but enough of times I've seen these placing events to know that Follow Me Lads is worth it. 2 inches matter to all you special gets. Then we got Warboss and Mega Armor, Warboss and Mega Armor, Warboss on Warbike with Super Cyborg Body and Zagrog Wartsnaga. So a few comments here. I have been saying I do appreciate Mega Armor, and I'm really happy to see this as another source of AP, another source of skirmishing, a different kind of sense of durability that Orks don't naturally have with our natural armor saves, and doubling down on this is pretty good. Now, going future, what we'll see with this, I'm not sure. Some of the matchups that we're going to have a hard time with, let's say, Necrons, or to be specific, what was the other one I was thinking? But Necrons and, Eldar, Dark Eldar. I'm not sure if Mega Armor is the answer to that. So then we have the Warboss, and on Warbike, yeah, I'm still in favor of using the Death Killer Wartrack because for 5 points, you get the Flamer, you get the Melta, and you get a couple more wounds. But people definitely use him as mobility because he's much smaller. I did have fallen victim to him being tri-pointed before, though, because he has that goofy base. And then Zagrog Wartsnaga. We love Zodrock because he's our one ability to do scouting, and sometimes just getting up to the mission, doing those secondaries, taking board control, already starting to block out some ingress, and just, presence on the table is really what men's games. Movement matters. So him giving us access to that is really nice to see. We got 4 trucks on the list. Even with the Dataslate guys, I think 3 trucks, 4 trucks is still very much the way to go with Orks. We got Flash Gets, the big brick of Gretchen. I like to see he actually went for the big brick. I'm always wondering about that. People who use him, do they use the brick or a little 10-man unit? You let me know. I know some people like to put them in trucks. We have 1, 2 10-man unit of Gretchen, and then he brought his Mega Knobs, but he brought them with Power Claws and custom shooters. I'm always, loving arguments going back and forth with that, but I can understand why people bring the shooters. Then we have the big unit, what I call a scalpel unit, because it solves all your problems of knobs. I love keeping in a 10-man unit because I really appreciate the fighting on death with that unit. And then, of course, everybody's favorite trio of 2 Storm Boys and a Warbiker for that constant scoring. You can use the Warbiker with the Warboss on bike, or separate, right? If you want maybe more board control, more secondary activations, you can do that. But if you're really trying to contest an objective and draw enemy firepower, put the biker with the Warboss and make sure he's a nice distraction card effects. So let's see what he had to get into to these couple get stuck into, right? We have Imperial Knights. Canis Rex is still good. Knight Crusader, Helvrin, Warglaves, Caladius Assassin, and Cordial Henchman. One thing we can look on here is going into what we would be considered a favorable matchup for Orks if we had Squigs. He was able to pull this off with trucks, with Warbosses and Mega Armor, knobs, and just having the scouting capability. So it's pretty interesting that, typically Knights, you're like, oh, well, did he have a bunch of Squig Hog boys? And it's like, nope, we had the Warboss, he had Maz, and Captain Badrook out there with the Flash Gets were tearing down some of those Knights as we know they can, the baby Knights. And to his second matchup, we had Imperial Agents. I don't know what's happening here. Okay, that was very flavorful. We'll just, not look at that. Sorry, I have no, things I can say about that. Then we have Mark Pepper. There's also why we go into context of this, right? He went to Eldar. He had the Yinkarn, Yavrin, Artarg Wayleaper, Dragon Fusion, Banshee Mask, Warpglaive, Fiender, and Hacksmith. What the heck? Death Jester, Fate Messenger Enhancement, Scourges, Shadow Specters, Warp Spider, Night Spinner, Ravager, Darklands, 3 of them. And then 3 Warwalkers, Brightlands. So we know they took, now they only take 6 of those dice at the beginning of the game to actually get whatever they want going off. They took increases on all, their Night Spinners. This is a mixture of, different kind of units because you see the Death Gesture stuck in here. So it's an off the wall kind of mix going on. But what I want to say is we don't really know what's going to happen with Dark Eldar. And so be aware for kind of the Eldar flavor, but in a different way, right? We're not going to have to deal with so much craft world, but we are going to have to understand Dark Eldar and how they operate. So we have Necrons. Oops, I sharded. So he brought, let's see, we'll see, one Deceiver Catan, a Nightbringer Catan, a Void Dragon, a Hexmark Destroyer, Technomancer, the Silent King, interesting, and then a straight up Transcendent Catan, and a Monolith. So as we're seeing here with our boys list, he's going into a bunch of odd skews that are just kind of odd and, you know, fun to see, but this is why you have to look at what people had to go into for this. And then last but certainly not least, he went to a World Eaters list of Angron, Karn the Betrayer, World Eaters Lord on Juggernaut with Favorite of Khorne, Master of Executioner with Berserker Glaive. We know this guy took a great nerf, as in great for us, sucks for him. He's still very interesting matchup for Orks. Is be careful because he could definitely chop down your characters, but World Eaters overall just took so many, you know, so many nerfs that they're going to be easy for us to run over. Sorry, World Eaters. Jackals, Cornzerkers, World Eater runners. Sorry, I meant Rhino. 8-bound, Exalted. Okay, well, you know, we know that list just got nerfed to oblivion. So let's take a look at Kyle real quick. Oop, I passed this boy real quick. Take a look at Kyle's list and what he had to go to, because we've seen our boy George Crabtree just had some odd matchups, but, you know, when he had to actually come through, he did. So let's see our boy Kyle's list. So Kyle brought something that I very, very much appreciate. So shout out to Kyle, because he brought foot slogging Gaz and SWAT squads. That's what I'm talking about. He got them SWAT team boys. Yeah. So he has, let's see what these SWAT teams look like. We got a Beast Boss, Gazgul, Mozrog, Nava Smasher Cook with Ed Wappas Kill Chopper, Warboss, Beast Naga Boy unit, triple trucks, 2 5-man units of burners with the rocket, 2 10-man units of Gretchen, 2 Mega Knobs for Gaz with Kill Sauce. I appreciate that. 2 5-man units of Knobs, love that. And then 1 big brick of Squighog boys with 2 Storm boys and a Warbiker unit. So you can see SWAT team between Knobs and Burner boys. Trucks for the SWAT with the Beast Naga boys and the boys. Very fun to see how he brought this list. And the Squighog brick. I still think the Squighog brick is totally in play if you boys ever wonder. But of course, put Head Wappas Kill Chop on there because that's really where you bring it. Now, when I'm in question, and you guys can tell me in your exchanges, I do think Orks might be transitioning back into a truck spam here if you're not just afraid of going into multiple battle wagons for that, you know, threat overload. Are we bringing the Beast Boss back? Is he kind of an answer here? I'm not sure. He hasn't made his way back onto my list in a while. So let's take a look at what he had to go through in his first matchup. So we had Grey Knights. So Grey Knights is another army that took, you know, a bit of a buff here. They're going to have their Dreadnought access. They get better firepower. Their Flamers, you know, are actually with their Side Cannons, I believe, actually got better AP and still ignoring cover. So if Orks do move into our elite infantry kind of meta, you know, Grey Knights can become a factor and start beating us up again. They're right there on the stat line where they about 50-50 when we go into them. It becomes a movement game really in that. So we have brother Captain Stern, Cal Drago, brother Captain, and 2 Librarians. I think Librarians took an increase in there as well. Terminator, 3 triple Terminator squads, a Strike Marine squad, a big Paladin brick. So this list maybe went up in points a little bit. You know, they don't really care for the Strike Marine squad. I'm sure they had it just to have more stuff. Grey Knights should be on the lookout for Orks. One thing to keep in mind is you have to know the rules in order to have a great chance of beating them as an Ork player. So Kyle, good job on there, because I'm assuming you understood their rules enough to kind of box them out of the objectives, know what to do here and there, and throttle when you could. So World Eaters, we know they took a nasty nerf. I'll just say that Orks had a great winning rate into World Eaters at that time, even though World Eaters are very strong, right? So at least they were really strong. So third matchup, he went into Blood Angels. Blood Angels got a good increase where now they have +2 strength. That really throws them into a bunch of different kind of thresholds for Orks that we should pay attention to if you have local Blood Angels in your meta, or if you come across one, maybe an RTT or something. Just know that, you know, if they have a unit of Jump Pack Marines on their list, getting +2 strength and the ability to have Lance means they can run in there and start wounding some of your T5 infantry on 2s. They can counter your knobs with that, even with their built-in -1 to wound. So that's what I'm talking about, where we're getting to this. If we choose to lean into an infantry type more meta, you see a lot of different factions are actually going to have tools for that, or see that coming as well. And then their power fists can get up to strength 10. They're going to be starting to wound stuff on 2s that we don't want them to as well. So even though I'm not saying they're going to be the most meta, when you run them and knowing some of their rules, just know that when they're running the right, they're the new detachment, they can do that. It's not new, but they're updated rules. So we have the Gladius Task Force, Gabriel Seth, Chaplain, Sanguinor Priest. That's cool. Assault Intercessor Squad, Blade Guard Veteran, Death Company, Eliminators, Eradicators, Vanguard Squads, Ball Predators, Death Company Dreadnought, Land Raiders, 2 of them, and Redemptive Dreadnought. Redemptive Dreadnought went up in points too. Not seeing the cohesion on that list, but I can appreciate its strength. And I'm sure that guy had a really good idea for everything, why he brought everything he had on there. For his 4th matchup, he went into that same oddball off the wall Necron list. Dark Eldar. Sorry, Eldar list. It was a mixture of freaking units. And then we have, last but certainly not least, his matchup to Ashley Mayo. It was an Eldari list, but with Harley Quinn's involved in there. Do I think this will be the future of Eldar? Not sure. I have seen this before. The one thing that orcs don't like about this kind of matchup is a lot of transports. Sometimes we can have issues disembarking them. Yet flash gets really help you in that. In these kind of matchups where maybe Eldar, Dark Eldar, when you have your flash gets, putting them off the table so you can bring them on, get an activation while they're in a truck. Once the trunk gets popped, they get out. They're probably still going to survive that because those armies don't always have the volume of firepower to kill them. Then you get to shoot them again. Maybe you pop Overwatch, and you get to have multiple activations in your flash kit. So that's great into Eldar and just any of those T3 armies as a whole. So great job to George, Crabtree, and Kyle for the whoa. That's what I'm talking about, boys. All right. So from there, we're going to look at the Winchester GT 40K. We're going to look at Joshua Colward, right? So before that, let me look at the chats real quick if you guys got anything to say before I get lost in the sauce and the wall energy. We got 10 gifted wall tactic memberships for Wicked Joe. Whoa, Wicked Joe. Let's go, boys. Let's go. So Get Stuck In Gates. He gifted 10 memberships. Of course, collect them. Get turned into a runt. Then you can become a squig. You get access to our emojis. So let me get some boys in the chat, some grots in the chat, some squigs. Or of course, if you guys are feeling the mega knobs, put them too. We got Wartsnaga as one of our emojis. So if you're feeling scouting, put them in there too. Right? Whoa! All right, boys. Let's see. He says, I think I still like Commandos getting some play. I just played some squad. I'm wondering that, but getting that much, they're getting kind of expensive with everything else getting increases like trucks and knobs that you want to bring, right? So going for that little character for just 80 points might be where it's at, right? Even though you do get to ignore Overwatch. So, yeah. So having a couple. So we have, let's see them badges in chat, boys. Mega Knobs, let's go. Rots in chat. So shout out to Wicked Joe. Let's take a look at Mr. Joshua Colliard. Sorry. So let's take a look at this, guys. Remember, we're coming into this looking for archetypes that are going to be slightly touched or untouched going into the new data slates. We know pretty much just orcs and a couple trucks went up. So, and Squig Hog Boys, right? So we got Captain Bagrook, Maz, Edwap, Skill Chopper, Follow Me Led, Warboss on Bike, Suicide Brook Body. So we're seeing the transition from the Death Killer War Drag, Warboss on Bike, way smaller base, way easier to hide. Of course, like I said, with Eldar coming around, maybe you want the Flamer, maybe you still want the tiny base, right? We have Beast Snagga Boys, Boys. So you do not see a Beast Boss, for that unit. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trucks, Flash Gits, 2, 3 units of Gretchen, 1 big unit of Knobs, 1 big unit of Squig Hog Boys, 2 Storm Boys units. So he's putting Flash Gits, Knobs, Boys, and then 2 units of Beast Snagga Boys into trucks and just moving them up the field. Again, we see the truck mob without as many spam. You don't see the big tracks. You don't see it's all max amount 6 trucks. He still wanted elite infantry to get the job done. He needed the scalpel. He needed the firepower from the Flash Gits. He needed the Knob on Smash Quick and the Edwapa Skill Chopper. I still think we want it in our toolkit because some armies are still going to try and just stat check you, or they're going to need to meet you in the middle with their elite infantry, and you're going to have the tools with the Squig Hog Boys, let's say against Custodes, where you need to be able to hit them hard, maybe actually survive a clap back a little bit here and there, and actually chip down these units and maybe even out OC them when you can. And Square Boyz actually give you that potential. So Mozrog as well is another unit where he didn't get hit in the data slate. He's going to stick around. Warboss on Warbike is just super cyborg body just turns this auto advancing 6 unit into an automatic priority for your enemies. Also, the Death Killer Warshak, why I appreciate him is he has 1 more OC, which if he's by himself, that matters. But when you have the bikers, I guess I don't really worry about that as much. So this guy's having good activation, good board control. He's throwing the bike up the field automatically where he wants the enemy to be distracted, staging his elite infantry trucks behind the vehicle, behind the buildings that he can, putting the other ones out as bait. If they get blown up, they disembark. He gets to run up the field and attack with them. Maybe he disembarks his elite infantry so he can pop Here We Go nowadays. Not sure about that, but we got to keep that in mind too, because he does have Follow Me lad, so he can chuck up the field as soon as he disembarks. So I love that. Again, so you're seeing on all these great lists that they're bringing Follow Me lad. So if you're ever feeling like a cheap get, just know that the biggest bosses are using it. So this first matchup, he's going into Necrons. So one of the soon-to-be meta bullies, as people are predicting. We'll see how what Ork's got to say about that, right? Chronomancers, Plasmancers, Royal Warden, Technomancers, Silent King. The only thing here is the Royal Warden actually allows them to fall back and shoot. Normally, why Orks just swarm Necrons and just tag them, and that's why we beat them so easily, or at least the majority of the time. We have like a 60% win rate into them at the time of this recording. We'll see how that looks in about 3 weeks, right? And then the Silent King, I think he could be better, but it is what it is. Immortals, 20 units of Necron Warriors, Annihilation Barge, bunch of swarms, spiders, some Wraith, Crypto Thralls, Destroyers, Tomb. So it's not really the most meta Necron list, but it's okay because we see Necron players are still trying to figure it out. So going into the second matchup, we have Grey Knights. So again, Grey Knights, like I said before, there's a skill thing. Castle and Crow, Kaldor Drago, Champion, Brotherhood Champion. Oh, okay. Hello, brother. Brotherhood Chaplain, Triple Librarians, Terminators, Brotherhood, more Strike Squad, Purifier Squad, more Terminators, and then a Grey Knight Rhino. This guy's running Hero Hammer. It is what it is. Like I said, if you know the rules, you can pretty much just outmaneuver them and put them in places they don't want to be so they can't outscore you. How that matchup's going to look in the future depends on where Ork players start to lean into, right? And that's also why I said I don't know about Grey Knights. Mega Knobs, is because another army like Grey Knights can kind of start to dismantle those guys. Yeah, they don't really pop our transports well. So the Dread Knights kind of helped them with that. So that's where we start to think, what's going to happen here? Now we have Space Marines with Space Wolves. This could either be hilarious or actually intimidating. Let's see. We have Harold Deathwolf, Judiciar, Lieutenant with the Combi Bolter, Wolfguard Battle Leader on Thunderwolf, Wolfguard Battle Leader on Thunderwolf, Wolfguard Battle Leader on Thunderwolf. Intercessors, that's most likely where this was Judiciar, I would think, is going. Maybe. Let's see. And then Impulsor, Intercessor Squad with Jump Axe again, Fenrisian Wolves, Hellblaster, that's with Lieutenant maybe. Inceptor, Infiltrators, Repulsors, and then here the Thunderwolf Calves. He tried to do what he is to do. Orks just have a great job into that. Squigs, we can take the charge from them. We charge them down. We mess them up. Our knobs fight on death on them. We mess them up. So, Orks weren't really worried about that one. Now, here in his fourth matchup, what is funny about this, did I miss? Let me make sure I missed this matchup. No, that was it. That was his third matchup. So in his fourth matchup, he's going into an actual green skin fight. So we got Captain Badrock, Mazaz Scragbag, triple War Bosses, Warboss and Mega Armor with Follow Me Lads, Warboss in Warbike with Super Cyborg Body and Zagrot Wartsnegger. So we have a bunch of War Bosses. So this boy is probably going to have multiple activations with smaller units. And he has the scouting capability. 1 unit of Beast Snagga Boyz, which is not with a character. So just keep that in mind. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 trucks, Flash Kids, Gretchen, Mega Knobs with Twin Kill Sauce, Knobs. So 3 5-man units of Knobs with that 1 big unit of Mega Knobs, followed by 2 units of Storm Boys. So a lot of the time with Orks is who hits first, who hits harder, who can retain this and that. And I want to know what happens with these Flash Kids. I think Flash Kids also matter a lot in the Ork on Ork matchup. So if either of you kids come out and here, see this, give me a shout out. Let me know what happened there, because Joshua ended up putting up some really high scores against all of that. So I'd really love to see that. You guys had similar lists. So great job by Joshua there for the War Boss coming out on top. Now his last matchup where he did end up losing, it was against CSM with Abaddon the Spoiler, the Dark Commune. The Dark Commune went up in points. And then Abaddon the Spoiler did not go up in points, but he might actually start seeing play if, you know, people still decide to play CSM competitively after how nasty they just got hit nerf, right? So great job by Joshua Colward. And just shout out right here to Anthony. He still got number 9. So still good job by you, buddy. So shout out to the Warbosses. Whoa! At Winchester 40K GT. So before I get into this last event, because we're going to have 1, 2 lists right here that are already in the top 5 alone that are orcs, and then even number 6, which ended up fighting against number 2, we're going to be able to cover his list as well. So we're going to be able to cover 3 lists in this one. So before I show you those archetypes real quick, let me just see what you guys got to say, because that's a great job by all these orcs. You see how many placings they have all in contention with each other within multiple points of each other, but they're not riding Squig Hog Boys, really. They have 1 Squig Hog Boy unit on there, right? But that means their list went up maybe 35 points from just the Squig Hog Boys and another 5 from the couple trucks. So they lost maybe 1 unit of Storm Boys on their list. Maybe if, you know, so that's what I'm saying, guys, is we're still doing it in a great position. I still think Squig Hog Boys very much have a place. Some of these armies had a crazy firepower or very annoying shenanigans have kind of been dwindled down a bit. And Black Templar are still being great when in a great position where they are. Being increased in points didn't put them, you know, in a bad place against us or us against them. So, you know, knobs still are great value. Let's see what you guys got to say real quick. And remember, we're going to talk about this on Friday. Friday, we have in deep conversations by why I think these things. I have calculated responses for all these things. How big is the war boss on bike base? I can't seem to get the kind it is anywhere. Yeah, it's 100 by 40, which is an odd oval shape. It's super weird. So yeah, and it looks like a pill base. Yeah, it just sounds weird. So people just say, I see them having big choppas and more bosses. So yeah, people like to have big choppas for the small units because then you get the actual capability to hit accurately when you don't have as many big power claws anyways, right? Or sometimes if people have it on the board boss, it's probably just a typo because nobody would really do that. He said, I just realized my Death Killer War Check I bought secondhand is on the wrong base size. Oops. Yeah, you want to check that. It's like a baby nice base. My list went up 70 points. Totally rethinking my strategy. Well, jump in Discord and tell us what you're thinking, you know? So I know one of my lists went up like 100, 110 points, something crazy. But then another one of my lists went up no points. I think went backwards like 10 points. And then I know Sean Layden's list went down 5 points. So if you were already against using squigs as like your main source and already kind of moved away from that, you won't be, you know, left behind. Also, just remember, kill rigs are being kind of interesting. I will give you context for that Friday. While I'm not sure if that's going to be in the lead or the battle wagon is going to be in the lead for the meta, the rise of the green tide, or if we're going to have trucks. And Friday I can go deep into it and you guys can argue with me all about it. Are these events with the data sheets included? Join late. Sorry if I missed it. No, these are prior data slate, which is why we're looking at them through the eyes of people that are going to look at these lists with the data slate in mind and think, okay, what can I drop from this list? Or if I make something similar, what would I drop? What would I keep? Do I need, like, for example, Zagrat Wartsnagger. If you had 70 points on your list and you had Zagrat, maybe you're like, maybe I don't need Scout, stuff like that. You know, because now, you know, other armies got increases to their scouts or wherever they are in their presence on the table. So you're like, well, maybe I'll drop that. So, and at the same time, some people think it's great. So here we have Joel Romuel, Team Wall, according to Joel Romuel. So let's take a look at his list and what this Git did. He has Captain Badrock, Mad Doc Rotsnig. My vote for the ugliest model in the Ork Codex. Whoa! Warboss. That's it. And then he has looks like a big unit of Boyz. That way he has it with Mad Doc Grotsnick, which allows him to fall back and charge, as well as the 5-up Feel No Pain. And then the Warboss, of course, goes along with that. He has a unit of Burner Boys, a 15-man unit, a unit of Flash Gits, a big unit of Knobs that for the other Warboss, a couple units of 3-man Squig Hog Boys, and then a gargantuan Squigwall followed by a battle wagon. That's what I like to see with 2 trucks. So as for the composition of this list, I really appreciate it. He has multiple Burner Boys on this thing so that he can actually get dug out of a fight if he has to. You know, he can just get them flamers in. Love it. He has the battle wagon with the boys. So a list like this, you guys, most likely, there's there's a chance, you know, oh, never mind. I was gonna say didn't take too much points increase. But because he has a trip Squighog Boys, this went up in points. I'm sure he could find something to contest his way out of that, because I'm sure that wasn't the staple of what held this list together. Having a whole unit of Battle Wagon Boys that you can jump out and throw into objective, out OC it, and then follow up with stuff in a Battle Wagon, or just run stuff over that's trying to be elite in the middle of the table, and then follow that up with Boys is crazy. So I really love that. The Gargantuan Squigog has crazy OC too. Not to mention he still bought the Captain Badrook, and he still bought the Knob Scalpel unit, my favorite, right? The 10-man unit of Knob. So how he built this list and put it together, great job. A+ list building here. What I really like that 3-man unit of Squighog Boys are still viable from what I can see. But you know, what we still have to go into it. Are you going to run that, or are you going to risk being shot on the table? So you win to Logan. This was another player who did excellent at the event. So shout out to Logan. Whoa! We got 2 Beast Bosses, Mozrog Scragbag, and a War Boss and a Wapis Kill Chopper. 2 Beast Bosses, a War Boss, 1, 2, 3 trucks, 2 big tracks, and then a Blitzabomber. This crazy Git used a Blitzabomber. Now, what does this thing do? It shoots some super shooters. He gets them sustained. It's still a flyer, so it has to come on the table turn 2. When it flies over you on a 4+, it does D6 mortal wounds, and I guess it's kind of cheap. 10-man unit, Burner Boy unit, 2 of them, 2 10-man units of Burner Boys. Of course, put the rockets in there. 2 Gretchen units, a Luda's unit. You know, I've heard people put these in strategic reserves and use it as a 5-man unit to do secondaries. Not sure. 2 Bubba Chucka units. I love that he has Bubble Chuckas, because in reality, from what I've played and what I've been told, you know, the consensus is that the Met Guns aren't really going to do damage, but they can draw fire. And if you roll that proper profile onto the right target with the Bubble Chucka, you've now increased your chances of actually doing something. So there might be those games. I'd say at least one game of one of these Bubble Chuckas might have gone off and done something memorable for him. So that'd be pretty sick. And I'm not against it. If you're going to decide to throw Met Guns on your list, put a Bubble Chucka, because you're probably already going to do nothing anyways. And if you roll the lucky profile into something you can see and do something into, that increases your chances of actually doing something. So you might as well risk it all, right? You're just going for the odds. Let Gork and Mork be in your favor. And then we have the Storm Boys and 2 units of Warbikers. Great secondary scoring potential from this list. Not a lot of things to kill Battle Wagons and Gargantuan Squigoths, right? So you're going to really just try to kill everything else on the table, which are the skirmishing Squighog Boys that he had, the big brick of Squighog Boys, the big brick of boys that he had, and find a way to slow down the Gargantuan Squigoth consistently and not dealing with its OC taking over wherever it sticks on. So Logan, you know, did end up losing that one, but great job, Logan, regardless, because he still made it to the top 7. So let's see his second game with the Gargantuan Squigoth, and it's Black Templar. So he says it's a Apothecary Biologist, Captain with Honor Vehement, Captain with Artifice Armor, and then High Marshal Hellbrick. That guy's great. You know, with these guys having access to lethal and such, they can start chopping through a lot of these things, and they can burn through that unit of boys in the Battle Wagon, right? So we have Black Templars with multiple impulsors. So now he actually has all these transports that we don't have a bunch of tools, at least not on Joel Romulus' list, to disembark these impulsors. He has Aggressors, Eradicators, Inceptors, Land Raider, Sword Brethren, Scout. So scouts can kind of get in the way of the Squigog Boys, slow down the Squigs and the trucks, slow down the list as a whole as he fills up the table with his Impulsors and his Land Raiders. When the boys get out to play the mission, they can get flamed, they can get countercharged, the knobs as well. So I can see how this could be a tough matchup for him as a whole. You know, if the Black Templar player is smart and gets in the way with these things and slows the Squigog Boys and the Gargantuan Squigog down and kills everything else as he can, yeah, that's going to be an issue. And in a weird way, you know, there's a good amount of small arms fire, Meltas coming from the Impulsors here, all types of weird things that he's popping transports, killing elite infantry, shooting Squigog Boys, all types of stuff. So, you know, it happens. And then his next game, he went into Angron and the World Eaters. We know they got demolished, so great job there. I think he put up 100 against them. And so there he had the Thousand Suns, the T-Suns. Orks kind of demolished them right now, and they're going to continuously. And then Astra Militarum. So great job beating Astra Militarum. That's one of our harder matchups. We'll see if that continues to be a hard matchup. So he has Lord Solar Leontis for the additional CP and casting the strats. Casting the the redeploy and free CP. Then we have a platoon command squad. Does he have the... Yeah, I would see people, what they would do on this is they drop like a mortar into the squad, and then the mortar, it shoots something. I think you can pop a strat like crossfire or something, and you get additional AP on something. So people do usually put a mortar in there. But if he didn't, he didn't. Tank commander squad with grand strategist. Let's see, 2 units of Deathcore, 3 units, 4 units of Deathcore Krieg, all 10-man units with multiple chimeras, armored sentinels, demolisher tanks 1, 2, 3. I'm not sure what the regimental attaché will do. Oh, actually, I think I thought is it the psyker or the astropath that does decent spells? I think it's the other guy, the primary psyker. Scout sentinels, and then the pesticides for their scoring. Not a terrible list by any means by the guard. He might have just made the mistake of trying to kill the gargantuan squiggoth and just wasting his firepower. And then that one turn when you do target the gargantuan squiggoth, the next turn the orcs are on you, and you wasted your whole entire turn when shooting the squiggoth. You kind of just get murked there. So it might have happened. Not really sure what happened there, but great job for beating one of our harder matchups in the Astra Militarum. Now, right here with John Otto. Whoa! One of my personal favorite war bosses, John Otto, met him in person. Really lovely individual, always fun to be around at events. He's very active in like the Midwest area. He's always running whatever he really feels like. I've seen him run mobs. He run mobs of boys when people didn't think it was meta. He's run Squighog boys. He's run Mega Knobs. He's run the Zagrod, or sorry, Zagrod. Zagstruck with Storm Boys in a brick, and here we go across the table. So he's done a bunch of off the wall stuff. So I'm happy to see that with his off the wall ideas, or just him playing however he wants, he's still always consistently doing 4-1, 3-2. So shout out to John. So let's see with right here we got Mozrog Scragbag, Naban Smasher Squig with Edwapa's Kill Choppa, Naban Smasher Squig with Cunning but Brutal, a Painboss, Warboss. You guys follow me, lads, and then a Weird Boy. We have a unit of Beast Snaggle Boys for the Painboss, 2 units of Gretchen, the big 10-man units of Knob Scaffold Knobs, but he has one with the Power Claw, and then right here he actually has one with the big Choppa. So this is, like I said, for the more the accuracy where you're hitting on 2s with that nasty volume of punches. Maybe you don't need the AP in certain matchups, or you know that you're going to be getting hit with -1s or -2 and you don't really want to deal with it anymore. You're like, forget that. I still want to lay these hands on you, these choppers on you. So we got Storm Boys, 2 big bricks of Squighog Boys, 2 War Bikers, and then 2 trucks. Now keep in mind, only 2 trucks, but he has 3 units that you want to put in transports. He has 2 units of Knobs and a Painboss and Beast Snaggle Boy unit. So that means what he did is he did not put the Painboss and the Beast Snaggle Boys on foot. So me and him spoke a bit. He said in actuality what he did was take the Warboss and the Knobs, put them in the trucks, move them up the table, disembark them, and then actually when he could, he would jump the Painboss back into the truck after healing Maz if he could. He got to heal Maz 3 games, Maz game 1, 2, and 5. So that's the point of why he brought the Painboss. And sometimes people just have a weird time trying to dislodge Beast Snaggle Boys with the Painboss, and they're regenning and they have good OC and they don't want to commit that way. But yeah, he was actually flexible by taking guys out. That way he could stage the Knobs, be prepared to use Here We Go to get +2 to advancing charges on the Orcs, and they already have +2 to their movement. So that's a ridiculous increase of +6 to their overall movement on top of their 6. So they're auto moving 12 inches across the table, not including whatever they roll on their advance. So he's just using them as a crazy missile, not being scared to move them. Like I always say, you only need your vehicles to move up in stage once. And then his Weird Boy, he used that so that he could just constantly score his secondaries. And sometimes he said he would use it even bait his enemies and to just kind of kill them. So we have 2 units of Gretchen. Like I said, so he went over that list. That was his list. That was the strength of his list on how he was doing it. So let's take a look at his matchups real quick while we roll this out, and then we'll get our thoughts. So we'll go with his first matchup. Salamanders with Firestorm Assault Force. So played right, Firestorm does good, even against Orcs, especially with those Knobs being there. You can just put them into the weapons all into the threshold, being able to actually kill them. But Squighog Boys do feel pretty strong into Firestorm. So we have Apothecary, Gravis Captain. I think Gravis Captain is slept on all the time. Captain and Jump Pack, and then Vulcan, he's done. Razorbacks, Aggressors, Devastators, Centurions. I'm going to go this too quick because Space Marines took some nasty increases in 2. So I just want to see if there's anything in here that he was using that keep an eye out that might become powerful now. And so far it looks like, Infernus Marines took a decrease. I'm surprised he used Devastator Squad. Centurions took an increase. you know, that guy had an off the wall list, but I'm sure it was great because when someone's in a place in like Salamander Firestorm, they thought about it. Now into his second game, and I actually had some of the notes by him, so I should look at that too. But in his second game, he told me that when he went into Orks, he wasn't necessarily sure. He went into Brian Gray, what to do here. I guess he's like, I played a little, you know, laid back, kind of didn't put his foot on the gas right away. But what he did do is he did go first. He was able to get stuck in first, kill the flash gets, which in my opinion is a big swing because you could be using the flash gets to overwatch and killing any units that are trying to countercharge you as you're positioning. If you disembark them in the proper locations, as in you measure that they cannot charge through the terrain to you and hold multiple lanes of fire, just one lane of fire, saying, hey, if you countercharge me, move across this part of the field, I'm gonna get you. So and instead John got into charge with that, picked those guys up, got a couple of fights and deaths here and there, fought in the middle and killed the death copters, and then just tore this guy out. So great job by John Otto. Losing to him is nothing to Warboss to be ashamed of. John Otto's very active and very well practiced. So great job to John Otto. Then in his third matchup, he went into Eldar. You know, he said he was familiar with Eldar and this player, but that this was a different list. And as you can see right here, Asurman, Artark Wayleaper, Baharoth, and then Lilik Night Spear, Spirit Scener. So this guy was trying to get out of the game. He has some Storm Gordians, some Dire Avengers, Falcons, some Fire Dragons. We might have to keep an eye on the Fire Dragons. They might be common. And these Swooping Hawks, right? I don't think Wind Raiders are where it's going to be at, but the Wraith Guard are definitely now where it's going to be at, in my opinion, because now they can't react to move so quickly. They're going to be so slow. But it's a great job by John Otto in that. You know, he said that was a interesting game that kept him on, you know, active and on his toes, on his P's and Q's, but he did seem kind of confident into that one because he had already done it. And he made some large charges, he said, and pressured him early. Now, as his fourth matchup, like we've been speaking about, the Custodians. So he did end up losing the game to Custodians. He said normally he does quite well into Custodes, but like we see in the stats, it can go either way. And we know all their rules. You know, they get the ability to fight first. They can destroy your characters with their awesome Blade Champion, or if they choose to challenge you. They can withstand our wall churn because they can pop 4 Feel No Pains on their Wardens. They can reduce damage. They can choose to be, you know, all these different they have a -1 to wound. They like on their Wardens as well. So it's like they're just overall very, very difficult to deal with. They can advance and charge on you. Their Terminators have those grenade launchers that can deal with our blobs of boys. You know, they'll pick up a Painboss boy and a Beast Snagger boy like nothing with their grenade launcher, even if you pop Artist Nail because they're re-rolling wounds from that if he has Terminators on this list. So let's see, he has Blade Champion, Shield Captain, Shield Captain, Champion, Shield Captain, and Lars Terminator Armor, Guardians, another unit of Guardians, Alars, Custodians, Wardens, Venatari, Witch Seeker, and Draxus. So one thing right here I like to see as an Ork player is you do not see those Gravis tanks. Those Caladius Grav tanks will pop kill rigs, pop battle wagons. But what we do like one thing that we do like about them not having that is that kill rigs being able to increase the strength on Orks to get us over the threshold of strength 6 or 7, or even up to maybe even 8 on the wall with the certain kind of synergies we'll talk about on Friday. You know, you can start wounding Custodians a bit more effectively than they'll be ready and wanting to deal with. Yet they're still going to be very difficult for us. And something like Gaz is what I see as being the answer, because you really want to actually get lethal into that. Because what he said his issue here was that he wasn't able to dislodge them when they had the 4 Feel No Pains, or, you know, with the reduction of damage. And when he did go off, and when that happens to you, and if the Terminators roll good and get Maz down, because they can, you know, pop lethals and get +1 to wound, they can just kill Maz down after, you know, maybe 1 entire battle round or 3 combat phases, then you're kind of stuck there getting kind of run over. Another thing I want to say about that is that, yeah, he didn't have flash kits on the list, of course, that we have to keep in mind, but that these Venatari with the Alaris Custodians combo is that they want to come in with double rapid ingress, because the Venatari have built-in rapid ingress in their data sheet. So they'll pretty much come in with Terminators and the Venatari, so they can get a good counter, you know, charge or push on you, and that makes them kind of hard to deal with as well if you're not prepared for that, or if you make mistakes. Yet that's where you see something like a Death Killer Wartrike, or maybe scouting or infiltrating could be more interesting, because then you're already trying to box those out and push them out right off the bat, saying, hey, I don't want you doing that to me, and giving them less area to be. Or some people started talking about the shock jump drag stuff. You know, we'll go more into that. So yeah, he did end up dropping that game, but it's all good. And then last but not least, he played into Tyrannid. So he got redemption by fighting one of our other tough matchups. He had a Death Leaper, Old One Eye, the Swarm Lord, Hive Tyrant, Gargoyles with their gargoyle shenanigans, Termagants, Biovores, Zoanthrope, a bunch of Ripper Swarms, triple Exocrines in the Hollow Spec. So he did say Exocrines were a nuisance, destroying our transports. That's why he made sure to just right away try to disembark the infantry and prepare to here we go again. Like I said, he was doing that in most games. Pretty much with Tyranids, you just got to put pressure and be willing to run them over and let them know that you're not really scared of their firepower, even though it can kill you, but you know in a prolonged fight, you can outdo them. If you get stuck going tit for tat and, you know, allowing them to slow you down with their Rippers or with their Spore Mines or their Gargoyles, and you're not prepared for their shenanigans and you hold back on their, you know, on the gas tank, they do end up outscoring you, outlasting you, as in, you know, they survive just long enough that they can actually beat you as an Ork player. And they're constantly scoring secondaries. Now, with this going forward with the Dataslate, they got increases to their points. Decreases to their points, which their list got better. So we're gonna have to see them and the new kind of how their list look, because Norn Emissaries went down in points, which is already something we didn't like to see. So shout out to John Otto for taking this down on the Invasion fleet, because the Invasion fleet is still very much relevant, still very strong. But Tyranids are nothing to scoff at, even though as a whole in the meta, they aren't a bully, right? But if you meet them in the early games of your tournament, you might end up dropping a game there. So the fact that, you know, John was able to late tournament deal with that well-skilled Tyranid player, knowing what we kind of have to deal with sometimes, great job to John Otto. So war for the war bosses at Battle for the Bend at 40K GT. And of course, gotta shout out my boy Brian Gray. Whoa, in our Discord. This is his first GT ever, and he went 3-2. So I gotta give him some love. Of course, you guys know how I feel about that. You guys always know how I feel about that. So with that being said, let's see what you got to say with everything that we've been discussing in this, because we're going to get way more into this on Friday with all my ideas as to why everything is a little bit wackier than people think. In some matchups, we really got to keep an eye out for, and what data sheets we might want to start keeping in mind, and might not want to get too crazy excited for if we don't really want to think about, right? If we don't really think about what the meta is going to look like. So he says, Mr. 2, so do I read it right that the 12-inch buff on Killrig does not need line of sight to his target? No, it does not. You just need a 12-inch within inch of a Killrig. You pick an Ork unit and you go, hey, on a 2+, you take more strength. On a 6, you get lethal. So, and that does compound, so you can do the WAAAGH with that, and then another Killrig, so you could just start throwing something like a Beast Snaggle Bull unit up to strength 8, right? Just to go crazy on someone. I do with the Ludas in reserve. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Come on. He goes, what's your opinion on running Nama Smash and want Kill Chopper all by their lonesome, no unit attached? If you're playing 1,000 points, I mean, maybe you can argue that, but other than that, I would never see a reason to do that. Yeah, I would never see a reason to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's you know, you could consider it. Not sure why. And we got Snazzy has become a member. Whoa, let's go, Snazzy! And of course, you guys collect that membership if you can, because it's out there, and you guys can give some awesome Death Dreads, some Mega Knobs in the chat. Of course, I want to see it. So give it some love. Let me see them runts and grots. Whoa, I could paint my Maz. Now, no point in there. You were holding back on painting the Maz, huh? No, definitely. Guys, paint, collect whatever you want. When the book comes out, you never know what will become meta. Data slates happen. Factions change. Rules change. But it's your army, your money. You're paying for it. You should enjoy it how you can. I know it hurts a little bit when you're too skewed into one way to play. So that's why I do advise owning at least one of everything, or a little bit of as much as you can. That way you can have some diversity, and then from there go into your flavor. But having a little bit of everything means that you can always play your orcs and have somewhat of success. And that's really what we're here for. Not always to win, but to have a great experience and get stuck in, right? So on Friday, we're going to go into faction by faction matchups, see how the orcs are, you know, going to go out swinging into the new meta. And just, I think orcs are in a good spot. Yet I really do worry about, we'll say, maybe Custodes and Tyranids becoming kind of interesting. But I am happy to see CSM is gone, because no one likes getting shot off the table. And when it comes to something like Custodes or Necrons or Tyranids, we have a chance because they are going to get kind of in our face, and we are going to be using the fight phase against them. So I'm not like weary of it, like, oh my god. I'm just saying, for casual people or people that are intermediate learning, this might be rough dealing with their annoying rules and such. Is there a world where a kill rig is using 1K? Yeah, for sure. It's only 170 points now, dude, for sure. Of course, you know your meta. If maybe your personal league has a lot of anti-tank firepower, I would consider incorporating trucks on your list or a Maz on your list, something that can help soak up some firepower away from the kill rig if you only have one. But yeah, totally you can run a dude. He went down in points. The kill rig is totally usable. I don't care what anybody says. You can look at our prior videos and just look at our thumbnails, not in our live stream videos, but in our videos and edit it, and it shows multiple lists that at least 4-1 or maybe even 5-0 events. And some of these lists, at least 4-1, have kill rigs or multiple kill rigs in them. And this is prior to the Dataslate. So, and we show the context of how that happened. So you can definitely use kill rigs. My count 1K list. What I would say though on 1K is that you're actually better off with a bunch of small skirmishing stuff, right? Is my just general advice, because running like a Death Killer War Trike, bikes, Storm Boys, Shock Jump Dragsta, Weird Boy, throwing yourself all over the table is a real good way to win at 1,000 points because you're still playing on the entire table. So, whoa! Just jumped in during my lunch break in the middle of the night shift in UK. Keep on crumping. Yeah, get. I did the night shift before when I was a CNA. You know, it's about keeping active and your mind a little bit active. You know, make sure you sleep well and hydrate, boy, because you got to keep the skin beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Because you a proper green skin, you know? Let's go. Whoa! All right, kids. So just keep that in mind. Friday, we're going to talk about all the factions. I love y'all. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to be around for the rise of the green tide. You know what I'm talking about? Because things are always going to get better. Video presentations are going to get better. The tactic videos are going to get better. I'm going to figure this out. But there's always one thing to keep in mind. It don't cross a wall because we knock your teeth out.